Ah, that is such a fine strip of dirt.
2 turntables and a microwave is a destination that's a little up the road from the bottom of Sandy Ridge. A lot of us come to Sandy Ridge with the intention of riding this trail, but there is additional climbing required to get there. This is Sandy Ridge, so there's always additional climbing. That's how this place works. There's no easy approach, and it's always seems way harder to get to the top of this trail than it should be. Most people new to Sandy Ridge probably go through years of riding to Rock Drop, then the top of Communication Breakdown, then Quid Pro Flow, and finally up 338 Loop to connect with Triple T. Or is that just me? Just me? Am I the only one who's made this mistake for years? Who was confused about how this is supposed to work? Well, in case there's anybody else like me out there, here is another scenario that happens regarding this combination of trails. Everyone can see from looking at trail forks that Upper Hide and Seek should connect to a shortcut that would let you ride a much smaller section of 338 Loop up to the top of 2 turntables. But there are 2 things conspiring to make sure that 90% of the time you won't successfully make the connection. The first is that while indeed Upper Hide and Seek does, in fact, intersect with 338, the intersection happens right at the bottom of a steep section of trail that wants you to slingshot a hard left into a berm leading into a side cut. So you won't notice this sign until it's like almost too late to stop. Secondly, it's not all that clear from the signage what you should do here, like which way you should go on 338 in order to eventually make it over to Triple T. Well, it's a good thing you're watching this video because I'm about to tell you how to do this. After skidding to a stop at the intersection with 338, take a right and proceed for about 20 feet until you see a sharp fish hook turn to your left, beyond which 338 continues to the left. You want to go left, not right. If you go right, you'll eventually end up at the bottom of Rock Drop or have to continue all the way around the 338 loop, which would actually still be better than the pointless climb all the way to the top of Communication Breakdown, only to be dropped off in the dumbest rock garden ever and down to a dumb hole you've got to climb out of. Anyway, the rest of the 338 loop from Hide and Seek to the top of Triple T is just climbing up gravelly berms and pretty forest. Actually, there's some really nice forest in here. It's kind of I sort of like this climb through here. There's some nice spots. I mean, I recommend this. It's actually really quite pleasant. Eventually, after 3/4 of a mile and really only a couple hundred feet of climbing, you'll find yourself at the top of 2 turntables and a microwave, where you'll find an old record player and a stroller hanging together in a tree, but no microwave. I don't see a microwave anywhere around here. But Beck is one of my favorite musicians, so I definitely have to give props for the Beck reference. All you kids of the 90s will know what I'm talking about. I suggest just taking the entrance to the left, as the drop in isn't really that cool, and the left entrance sets you up better for the first berm, but your mileage may vary on this. Starting out with a series of rocky berms beyond those 6 initial turns, Triple T is basically 2 giant blazing fast side cuts making a giant Z down the side of the hill. I don't agree with the black diamond designation for this trail, as there are no mandatory features, and there's only one rock garden where an intermediate rider would need to walk the bike, but this isn't really something that's worth spending a lot of time arguing about. That said, 2 turntables isn't an easy ride down. It's rocky and narrow in places with tons of little jibs, rollers, and alternate lines, as well as not so obvious main lines that'll keep you on your toes, white-knuckled all the way down. If you just bought your first 160mm bike, this is the trail you should ride it on first. It'll be perfect. You'll love it. You've got to be really comfortable picking lines quickly and following them to really make the most out of this trail, and the turns on it are tight, so it helps to be comfortable leaning the bike over to execute effective turns. Far from being a flow trail, Triple T adds variety in the form of rock gardens and giant boulders with root wads placed in challenging locations to keep the descent exciting. There is a pretty significant rock garden on the last bench, and the best way to tackle it is to keep your speed up. Don't even touch the brakes. Just shift your weight back and let all your travel soak it up. This trail is just serious, undiluted fun. It always seems to leave me with a smile on my face. The terrain is the perfect mix of varied and rocky, with embedded dirt to engage riders from intermediate to expert. It's probably the best to avoid bringing a beginner on this trail, and it's good to keep in mind that an intermediate rider is likely to take a long time to descend this. I wouldn't recommend riding a hardtail on Triple T either, as it's super duper rocky, just like everything on this side of the Cascades. After a series of mild little step downs and tiny rock rolls, as well as kickers and jibs built out of trailside roots and rocks, Triple T ends right above the bridge that separates Upper Hide and Seek from Lower Hide and Seek. From from here, I recommend you ride back to the top and then ride upper hide and seek if it's a dry day, or go up to the top of Flow Motion and ride that down. Flow Motion is a fantastic little trail too. With this little shortcut, you're looking at a 1,200 foot day. I mean, it's not bad. You definitely need to do more climbing after that. 1,200 is not enough for a day. So go back to the top. Go ride Follow the Leader if you're a real masochist. I promise I'll review that one of these days. I mean, don't hold your breath.